crazy pills!
Bombshell report says Biden takes mysterious pills to be able to speak. Biden does not bring peace to the Middle East. And the hot new trend, Bidening, takes the internet by storm. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Starting off today with our first story. What kind of pill wouldn't you give your family member with dementia to be able to save their brain? And by the way, we want to take a moment here to say thank you for saving this show. You guys have absolutely crushed it over the past few weeks. We are so thrilled to announce record new numbers for viewership on this show. If you wish to support us, please, the best thing you can do is to share this video, to like what we do, to subscribe. It's all free. Click the bell. Let us let you know when we're live with breaking news and topics. We do The Benny Show every single morning. And ladies and gentlemen, we will be your truth pill every morning. We'll happily be sitting there with your coffee, your hot coffee, and your OJ and your toast in the morning, dropping truth bombs. And we are thrilled at the direction the show is going and the movement that we're building and the just environment that we can create here every single morning, where we preach the truth and where we talk about the stories that we're not allowed to talk about. And this is one of those stories. This is a tough pill to swallow for those who voted for Joe Biden. According to a groundbreaking report that is truly shocking, Joe Biden takes pills given to him by Jill Biden to be able to function every single day. This comes from Tucker Carlson's first-hand source from the 2020 campaign trail, who said that Joe Biden was like an infant, was like a small, inoperable child before he went on stage. Jill Biden would give him, with consultation with medical professionals, a mysterious treatment to be able to get him to have senility before he was able to talk. This comes from Tucker Carlson and his show. He sort of dropped this out of nowhere on Friday. It is really a shocking allegation. He says that these pills help boost Biden's cognitive performance before public appearances, and that, and I quote, supervised by staff, Dr. Jill and his wife would give him pills before public appearances, a dose of something about an hour before he would speak. Before taking the medications, the person said that Biden was like a small child. You could not communicate with him. He changed completely because he was on drugs, and he's clearly still on drugs. This, according to firsthand sources from Tucker Carlson. How much will we find out about Joe Biden, and what do we know about his state right now? Well, we know that Joe Biden, according to his son Hunter, has dementia. That's what Hunter Biden put in text to a medical professional that Hunter was speaking with. They actually joked about Joe Biden having dementia. What are these secretive pills? We're not sure. But Tucker Carlson seems to have the receipts. Let's listen.
Seemed logical at the time. This guy can't be the Democratic nominee. He can barely speak. How did he manage to get through the campaign? Well, it turned out, we learned later, his staff, supervised by Dr. Jill, his wife, was giving him pills before every public appearance, checking the time, and at a certain hour giving him a dose of something. Now, it's not a guess. We're not making that up. We've spoken directly to someone who was there and saw it happen multiple times. Now, before taking the medication, this person said, Biden was, quote, like a small child. You could not communicate with him. He changed completely because he was on drugs, and he clearly still is on drugs. No one's pushing to know what those drugs are. We should know. But the point is, Joe Biden's dementia was perfectly obvious to everyone around him more than 3 years ago. So we never thought this could happen. You can't make a senile man president of the United States. This is our country. This is a real country. It needs a real leader, even one you disagree with, but someone who's in full possession of his faculties. No one would ever do that. It's crazy.
So what are they giving to Joe Biden? And by the way, it isn't offensive to say that Joe Biden has dementia, since we're simply quoting his only living son, Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, again, saying that his father has dementia, having a long text chain with a medical professional, a psychologist, about Joe Biden and his mental state. So, if his son says it, can we believe it? We believe a lot of everything else that's on Hunter Biden's laptop, and we have more stories on that coming up. But let's talk about Joe Biden's mental state. It becomes clear to absolutely everyone who is watching that Joe Biden is indeed mentally incapacitated. You could see that this weekend in his Saudi Arabia trip. And we're gonna go through that in detail in just a moment. You can see it in detail every single time Joe Biden tries to speak. He reads the lines on the teleprompter. His own staff say that they watch and cringe while Biden is talking. It is becoming plainly and obviously clear that Joe Biden isn't with us, that Joe Biden does need mommy's little helper. Remember that clip of Joe Biden wandering into the wrong entrance to the White House? The Secret Service were trying to guide him, and he just wanders like a robot through the fields. Well, the White House was reached out to by the Daily Mail about this allegation from Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson arguing that Joe Biden is incapacitated and suffering from dementia. And we quote from Tucker and from Hunter. The White House spokesperson didn't immediately return a request for comment, according to the Daily Mail. The latest report from the White House doctor says Biden takes prescription medications for an irregular heartbeat, high cholesterol, and seasonal allergies. Did you know that Joe Biden has had multiple aneurysms and that Joe Biden has heart problems? He takes blood thinners, no doubt. According to my wife, who is a nurse, I asked about this. You would have to take blood thinners. You certainly don't want to clot your brain after multiple aneurysms. Joe Biden had to go have surgery on his brain in the early 90s, if I'm correct there on my timeline. The early 90s, Biden having surgery on his brain for aneurysms. And then here is this man who speaks like, harabadoop, hibbity-bop. International pressure in the foothills of the Himalayas. Every time he's asked to speak, he'll look into the teleprompter and say, repeat the line. End quote. This is the man who is in charge of the nuclear codes and who is supposed to be running the damn country, taking pills. Now, we ask the question, is there anything that you wouldn't do for your family if they had dementia, if they couldn't speak, if they couldn't talk, if they couldn't move, if they move like a robot? You watch Joe Biden walk, and he walks with rigidity in his gait. That's the medical equivalent of having a real problem with the synapses in your brainstem sending signals down to the rest of your body to move fluidly. When you have rigidity in your gait, it's the number one telltale sign that something's going on problematic in the brainstem. Demyelinization of the nervous system is what multiple doctors say is happening to Joe Biden. That's why he walks like a robot. This is just a standard telltale sign. Yet, the White House physicians won't give Biden a cognitive test. The White House physicians do not give Biden any cognitive treatments, according to the report. White House physician Kevin O'Connor did not mention any cognitive issues in the November report of Biden's fitness. He wrote that Biden is fit and successful to execute the duties of the presidency, much like the doctors in the Soviet Union with a gun to their head said that Stalin or Lenin were a fit to be commissar when Lenin was wheelchair bound, right, and couldn't speak. You have a situation here where you can't just report to the world, if you're the White House doctor, yeah, this guy has pudding for brains. Yes, this guy is a true applesauce brain. There's nothing going on upstairs. The hamster wheel is spinning. It's empty. The hamster's dead in the corner of the cage, and it's just full of sawdust. This isn't a situation where you just straight up report this to everyone. It's a real problem for the White House. They have elected a senile man, and his senility is apparently brought about by the usage of drugs, according to Tucker Carlson. Biden has a lifelong history of verbal gaffes, and as he approaches 80, even some Democrat strategists have begun to question whether he should seek re-election, and they ask about this openly. When you ask Joe Biden about his mental state, when you ask him if he's fit for office, Joe Biden has really weird responses. Not the responses that you would get from somebody who is actually physically fit, but the responses that you get from people when you hit pressure points, right? So when you're talking to somebody who's recently been divorced about their divorce, you can watch them bristle and suddenly get aggressive. Means you're hitting a pressure point, right? When you're speaking to somebody about their ex-husband and they hate them, they get upset. They reach for the Chardonnay. They really don't want to talk about it. You don't get these kind of responses from people who have normal lives. If you're asking somebody about something that doesn't bother them or that isn't a problem, they laugh it off. They shrug it off. This is human nature. But Joe Biden, when asked about his mental fitness, often recoils and becomes angry. Again, another sign of early onset dementia is mood control and mood swings. So here's Joe Biden from back on the campaign trail speaking with a black reporter from CBS who asked him about his mental fitness, and Joe Biden lashed out to the guy asking this black reporter whether he's on cocaine. Listen.
Have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump, who brags about his test and makes your mental state an...
Does that sound like a man who's mentally stable? Does that sound like a man who is in control of all of his cognitive capacities? Does that sound like somebody who is with us? No, it sounds like somebody who's bristling and upset because they know that they're mentally incapacitated and they know that they have to take mommy's little helper in order to get through the campaign trail. And you saw this. Joe Biden hidden away in a basement probably because of this. Listen, we don't know Tucker Carlson's source on this. We don't know who he's been speaking with. We're close with Tucker Carlson. We like Tucker Carlson. We communicate with Tucker Carlson. I used to work for Tucker Carlson. So we don't actually know who his source is on this, but his sources are absolute gold. I got to tell you, there's very few people who are as well-sourced as Tucker in the industry. He is often right about things months ahead of everyone else in the corporate media because the dude has a massive following. He has the most watched television program in the world for a single man. Not a single, like for a single individual, right? For a guy guest hosting. Sometimes the 5 beats him on Fox, but that's like 5 personalities versus Tucker's 1 personality. And so, Tucker is just the most watched man in the world, hands down. Tucker Carlson has a massive reach. He's also spent 30 to 40 years in the news gathering business because Tucker Carlson was raised in this by his father. Tucker Carlson has spent a ton of time in Washington, D.C. cultivating sources, working at MSNBC. That's right. Tucker worked at CNN before. Tucker had shows on corporate media and then started his own news site, The Daily Caller. Tucker Carlson is a capital J journalist and has a deep well of sources who trust him and who care about telling him the truth. And so I would not discount this one bit. I asked a couple of medical professionals that I know what this pill could be. So what kind of a pill would inspire such cognitive capacity? They would say they told me, the medical professionals that I reached out to, 3 that I trust, that this could be something extremely illicit like cocaine. That this could be something that is a heavy neural stimulant that really like sparks brain activity and like animates the brain in an unnatural and in a freakish way. That was their best guess because right now, legally, as far as pharmaceutical drugs go, they couldn't really come up with something that you could get over the counter or through a prescription. Is this why Joe Biden heads home to Delaware every single weekend? What kind of regiment is he on? What kind of president, when you have North Korea firing ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan, you had Iran saying this weekend that they have enough uranium to develop a nuclear weapon, Ukraine is getting just pummeled by Russia right now, and Russia has the upper hand in that war. It is now a war of attrition for Ukraine. You have the global economy in collapse as China is ready to take Taiwan, and the food supply is beginning to falter. The fuel supply is beginning to falter. All of these simultaneous crises, and the president has taken 40 vacations. Something's wrong. Something's wrong with Joe Biden, something is broken. And now even the corporate press is beginning to state that they think that this man is broken. Again, it's the corporate press that got Biden elected. Biden didn't campaign. He sat inside of a hermetically sealed basement with the geese honking behind him in Delaware. Joe Biden was not a real candidate. Joe Biden didn't actually run for president. He had himself run for president by the corporate press. Now, even those corporate media are saying, wait a second, this man will be 86 at the end of his term, and he clearly cannot function. He clearly has no mental capacity, and that's affecting all of us. Because, again, the corporate press will turn on somebody when it affects their bottom line, and Joe Biden is bad, bad, bad for business. Here is what the media said about Joe Biden in the last few weeks pertaining to his fitness and mental capacity. Again, this is MSNBC corporate media. This is like marketing teams into infinity. These people know what they're doing. Even they're saying time to abandon Biden.
He tends to shuffle sometimes because he has, mobility issues that the doctors have identified. Sometimes his speeches tend to be a little listless, or he seems to momentarily get confused or have trouble summoning names.
A third of them, the largest number, said age, that he was too old. That is a problem that's not going to get better. He's not going to get younger.
He's not going to get any younger. I think there are a lot of people who have looked at him over these last years and seen he isn't what he used to be 10 years ago.
He knows he's 80 years old, 79, 80 years old. He knows he's an old white guy in a party is demographically changing and diverse, and the future is not going to be an old white guy.
When he does badly, when he stumbles, you get nervous. And you wonder, is it just a stutter? Is he tired? Or something else there? Listen, if anybody says that Democrats aren't beginning to have these questions behind closed doors, that's not true. People are.
So what did Donald Trump have to say about Joe Biden? We went through and did the research and actually dug up a very interesting segment from Donald Trump, a very wise person, a person who, listen, call it what it is. Donald Trump's been right about a lot of things. Trump said that Biden would bring you $5 gas. Correct. He said that Biden would open up the border and collapse national security. Correct on all fronts. Donald Trump said that Joe Biden would collapse the stock market and that Joe Biden wasn't mentally fit to be president. Correct. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching-a-ling. That's the sound of a quarter hitting the Trump was right jar. And Donald Trump ended up saying this in September of 2020 while he was running against Biden, talking about Biden's addiction to drugs. It's possibly drugs involved. That's what I hear. Trump said in September. There's a possibility of drugs. I'm quoting 45. I don't know how you can go from being so bad where you can't even get out a sentence, Trump continued, accusing Biden of a weak performance on the debate stage. So here is Donald Trump, a man who knows a lot about a lot, stating that Joe Biden was possibly on drugs. Now, this is the way that Trump talks. Trump often uses these kind of verbal raconteur tricks, right? So Trump will say, you'll be happy, and wait till you see what's coming, and get ready for this, and maybe, possibly Hillary Clinton's going to jail. Like, these are the classic, when Trump knows something, he hides the ball. He always has the ace up his sleeve, and he's always sort of waiting and ready to drop the bomb when it's appropriate. And this is Trump, classic, couching sort of what he knows about Biden and saying, hey, listen, probably drugs involved. That's what I hear. How can you go from being so bad that you can't even campaign or leave your basement to standing on a debate stage with me? I'm Donald Trump. How did he get through that debate? Well, we should probably do a blood test. And according to Tucker Carlson's very good sources, Joe Biden is indeed on drugs. And you could see it. You can see it. It's just, it's coming from all angles. So this weekend, Joe Biden was in the Mideast. Now, this is a very dangerous place for a president who doesn't have the cognitive faculties to negotiate or to even speak to go. This is the Mideast is clearly one of the most rivalrous regions in the world. It's one of the most explosive regions in the world. We just had a collapse in Afghanistan. We've had rockets fired into our embassies in Baghdad and in Erbil, Iraq. You've had major problems in the Mideast, and of course, we're facing an oil crisis along with existential threats to peace in Israel and so on and so forth. So Joe Biden is walking into a powder keg, and Joe Biden doesn't even know where he is. Joe Biden had so many gaffes on his trip to the Mideast. It is humiliating to watch, but we'll enumerate them for you while you process what kind of pills does Joe Biden get served by Jill and a little spoon when they go on to their vacations in Delaware. What does the doctor give him on Air Force One before he takes the stage? Well, clearly not a high enough dose. Joe Biden said that American troops sacrificing their lives in the Mideast are selfish, and we should be praising their selfishness for giving up their lives for America. One of many slip-ups. Listen to this.
Always honor the bravery and selflessness and sacrifices of the Americans who served, including my son, Major Bo Biden, who was stationed in Iraq.
Oh, reliable. Just flip open old reliable there. When Joe Biden is having to face calamity, old reliable is Bo Biden. That's right. That's what you get. Bo Biden. Just make sure you bring up Bo Biden in every instance when you don't know what else to say, and then call Bo Biden selfish along with the rest of the American troops. No, jackass, what's selfish is you looking at your watch during a dignified transfer of 13 members of our armed forces that you killed through incompetence. But that's another live for another day. The slip-up came as Biden delivered prepared remarks to the leaders of the Gulf Cooperation Council in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on Saturday. For the first time since September 11th, an American president is sitting in this region without American troops being engaged in combat. The combat mission in the region, Biden said, of course, talking about his catastrophe, I like that. Catastrophe in Afghanistan, where Americans were slaughtered because of his incompetence. Saturday's regrettable slip-up was not the only blunder for Biden in his 4-day swing through the Middle East, with stops in Israel and Saudi Arabia. On Wednesday, Biden got off the plane in Israel and literally looked around, unable to know where he was or who he was, and said, "What am I doing now?" It's audible. "What am I doing now?" Joe Biden says as he's sitting there unconscious on the tarmac in Israel. Check it out.
What am I doing now?
Oh, nothing says American strength like Joe Biden standing there like with his maw open, staring into the middle distance, with his aides fluttering around him, paranoid and scared that Joe Biden's just going to drop his Depends on the tarmac or his dentures or just fall down the stairs or try and ride a bicycle and fall over. Joe Biden then, before calling Americans who sacrificed their lives selfish, Joe Biden said that he was there to honor the Holocaust. Take it away.
I will once more return to the hollow ground of Yad Vashem to honor 6 million Jewish lives were stolen in the genocide and continue, which we must do every day, continue to bear witness. To keep alive the truth and honor of the Holocaust, horror of the Holocaust, honor those we lost.
Biden is keeping alive the horror of the Holocaust of aborted fetuses in this country, trying to pass federal abortion laws. So maybe there's what mixed up Biden in that moment, but when you're landing inside of the Jewish state and you butcher Yad Vashem, the name of probably the most prominent Holocaust museum in the world. We've been there. We've toured it. It's incredible. We recommend it if you ever go to Jerusalem, and we recommend you go to Israel. It is truly a spiritual place. It will change you if you go to Jerusalem. If you go to Israel and the state of Israel, the place is really incredible. But Yad Vashem is a very powerful, powerful place. And also in Jerusalem, the only place where you can go see a 9/11 memorial. They erected a 9/11 memorial there in in Jerusalem on the outskirts of town. It's very powerful, very cool, and again, we've had a wonderful time in Israel. We'll be going back, I think, very soon, potentially this year. So this is a huge disgrace to our country, and also an insult to the people who are hosting you by butchering the name of the Holocaust Museum and then saying that you're there to honor the Holocaust. But this wasn't Joe Biden's only complete F-up while he was wandering through the Holy Land, the dumbest person to wander through the Holy Land, I don't know, since Judas. Here's Joe Biden not knowing where the hell he is once more on stage.
תודה לנשיא המדינה ולנשיא ארצות הברית. Thank you, President Herzog and President Biden. ועכשיו, קהל נכבד, honored guests.
Biden not knowing whose hand he's going to shake. Not the first time he's done that. Maybe Joe Biden has a superpower. Perhaps we're giving him a tough time because he can see invisible people. Joe Biden, the invisible man. He can see invisible people. He can shake their hands. He's shaking the hand of Ghost. King Herod is there saying, great job on your abortion policies back home. Maybe that's who Joe Biden's was shaking the hand of. No one knows. No one knows. Maybe we just don't have the type of skill Joe Biden has to see invisible people. In an event in Cleveland, Ohio, Joe Biden shook another invisible hand. You remember the clip? I'll leave it up to you to figure it out. Joe Biden sat at the Palestinian Authority national building or whatever and listened to the biggest butchering of the national anthem since your little 2-year-old tried to play the national anthem on a repeater, during the 4th of July. Here is the Palestinian Authority trying to play the national anthem for the occupant of the White House. Cover your ears if you have sensitive ears. This is gonna be painful. Whew. Ears bleeding yet? Well, they will be after this. In another confusing sequence of events, the White House had also telegraphed prior to the trip that Biden will be limiting his physical contact and avoiding handshakes, supposedly for COVID-19. But of course, Joe Biden doesn't read the script. Joe Biden doesn't know who he is. So Joe Biden's in there clasping hands and hugging people and doing so many handshakes and fist bumps, but he reserved his favorite fist bump and his most prominent fist bump, which, by the way, to the common observer of this, you fist bump your homies, you would shake the hand of somebody maybe you met for the first time during a business meeting, but if your homie comes over for Saturday barbecue, you fist bump that dude, right? That's how it works in the real world. And so when Joe Biden fist bumps the Saudi crown prince Mohammed bin Salman, it looks like really bad for the detractors. So the reason that people are freaking out about this fist bump is because the Saudi crown prince allegedly ordered the assassination of a journalist. The guy's name was Jamal Khashoggi. He had connections to the Muslim Brotherhood. There's definitely two sides to this issue. This guy has really sketchy background, but I don't know. Did he order the murder? No, I don't know. I'm not sure. But the American press is super up in arms over this and, of course, is pushing for Joe Biden to never meet with this man. Joe Biden claimed he would make Saudi a pariah, the Saudi state a pariah on the campaign trail, and there's a clip of Joe Biden right there on your screen doing the old fist bump like you would a homie. Just chalk it up to another massive lie for the Biden regime. The publisher and CEO of the Washington Post lost their shit over this, and they issued a statement calling the fist bump shameful. Fred Ryan, the publisher and CEO of the Washington Post, freaked out over this and said that Joe Biden brought great shame. Now, the difference, however, isn't just a fist bump as it pertains to the relationships that the American government has with the Saudi regime. The Saudi regime didn't send any emissary to greet Joe Biden on the tarmac, not when he came or when he left. So that's a massive insult. Joe Biden essentially walking down the plank there from Air Force One. Very proud of him for making it all the way down the stairs without falling. Joe Biden walking down the stairs of Air Force One to meet essentially regional governors. So that's a massive insult. Joe Biden had to travel to the palace in order to meet the royal family there in Saudi, and then went there to beg for oil. We feel as though it was worth digging up how they greeted Donald Trump when he came to the Mideast. Donald Trump on his first trip to Saudi Arabia. We put the videos back to back of how they greeted Joe Biden versus how they greeted Donald Trump. Donald Trump was awarded a high Medal of Honor. We don't know the exact name. It was like a huge golden medallion that they put around Trump's neck. It was very cool. But let's just see if you can do a vibe check on this video and see if there's a slight difference between how Trump was greeted and how Biden was greeted. So it's all fun and games, right? You can laugh at Joe Biden, clearly the man suffering from dementia, being unable to pronounce Holocaust museums, saying he's there to honor the Holocaust, saying that Americans who sacrificed their life in the Mideast are selfish, Joe Biden not knowing where he is, shaking the hands of invisible people. You can laugh at these things, and we do. But what's the purpose of the trip? The purpose of the trip, we can laugh at Joe Biden when he's just standing on the White House lawn. The purpose of the trip for Joe Biden was to get more oil. Joe Biden canceled oil production and stopped and halted leases of one of the most oil-rich countries on planet Earth. That would be America. So Joe Biden stopped American oil production, so he went to Saudi Arabia to beg them for more oil, even though he was warned by Emmanuel Macron just a few weeks ago in Europe that the Saudis will not be producing more oil. Joe Biden went there anyway. The stupid hubris of his team, thinking that Joe Biden could somehow negotiate his way into increased Saudi oil production. Not happening. They were dancing with Donald Trump because Donald Trump was there to bring the stick, right? Carry a big stick. Donald Trump was ramping up oil production in America, and the Saudis were like, please, God, don't do that. Don't drive oil below like $10 a barrel, because Donald Trump could absolutely do that and make America secure in doing so. Joe Biden went there to beg for oil so the price of oil comes down here at home, and Joe Biden can try and win re-election or win seats for Democrats because the price of oil goes down. How'd that work out for him? Not great, actually. This morning, a breaking report from Business Insider: oil prices rise above $100 a barrel as Biden fails to secure an oil output deal with Saudi Arabia. Oil prices rose Monday as supply pressures brew following President Biden's visit to Saudi Arabia. The Brent crude global benchmark rose 2.69%. $103 a barrel, set for its biggest one-day rise since early July last week. So that teeny dip in oil prices you've seen, get ready for it to skyrocket back up and get even worse if a recession takes hold, which we are already inside of a recession. Mark my words. Supply constraints are boiling up in energy markets after Biden's failed trip to Saudi Arabia to convince Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, to boost oil production in an attempt to bring down prices. Sanctions and boycotts of Russian fuel over the war in Ukraine have forced many countries to seek alternative sources of supplies. And this, of course, is collapsing the American petrodollar as Saudi Arabia sees America as a unstable partner right now, and they're beginning to do deals with China in yuan. It is a dangerous moment. America is made strong by the petrodollar being the reserve currency to trade oil. So if you're a country and you want oil, let's say you're Indonesia and you want oil, you gotta be able to pay in dollars. This was something that was struck back in the 1970s in the Nixon administration with the Saudis. It's led to an enormous amount of wealth pouring into the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and it's led to the preeminence of the American dollar as the reserve currency around the world. So if you're in Indonesia and you gotta buy oil, you gotta have cash reserves in dollars because the Saudis will only sell oil in dollars. That's called the American petrodollar. That's how that system works. And now it is getting degraded, and it may be replaced by a Chinese yuan system or a new system that is being created between China and Russia. Just in case you're wondering how disastrous Joe Biden's presidency has been, it is going to get worse. We haven't even remotely seen the worst, and it may never get. We may be seeing the full collapse of the American dollar at hand. A full collapse, indeed. That is the modus operandi of the Biden regime. Full collapse seems to be the thing they would print on a bumper sticker. Slap it on the back of your Subaru. Biden, full collapse. He's collapsed our economy. He's collapsing our dollar. He's collapsed the stock market. He's collapsed the crypto market. Collapsed border security. And Joe Biden himself collapsed on a bicycle. You saw that. It is a trend around the country now to go Bidening. That's what the kids are calling it, Bidening. Joe Biden collapsing on a bicycle turned into his own viral meme. Bidening goes like this. When you're on a bike and you fall over. That's the trend. Joe Biden's, the place where Joe Biden fell in Delaware is, of course, the epicenter of Bidening. This is the exact location. Here's a young woman practicing Bidening herself. Oh, so sad. So sad. This is the trend for all the youths right now. They are collapsing over on their bikes, making fun of our senile, nearly 80-year-old president who cannot hold himself up on a bicycle, who cannot speak clearly, who maybe Jill Biden gives pills to so that he can even speak at all, according to Tucker Carlson's reporting. The viral trend is taking the internet by storm, with hundreds of kids traveling around the country on their bikes and being being Joe Biden, falling over, embarrassing themselves and making fun of the current occupant of the White House. So, a pill that many in Liz Cheney's camp wish that she could take to forget is, well, would be a hot commodity inside of Liz Cheney's campaign right now. Liz Cheney is trailing her primary opponent by 22 points in the Wyoming primary, according to Breitbart. Liz Cheney, get me some of those forget-me-nots, please. Give me whatever you're giving Joe Biden. I don't want to live on this earth anymore. Liz Cheney is done in Wyoming. She is finito. She's finished. Why is Adam Kinzinger so pathetic every time he's on TV? Because Adam Kinzinger's done. Adam Kinzinger doesn't have any actual support. He's finished. He was districted out in Illinois. Illinois lost seats, so they got rid of Adam Kinzinger's district in redistricting, and they got rid of a Republican seat. They chose Adam Kinzinger, and Adam Kinzinger just is a pathetic, weepy loser who wanders on MSNBC. He's just like begging for that MSNBC contract. He's just so full of suck. And Liz Cheney will lose her power in Congress when she gets defeated in her primary and will no longer have any path and can go back to her actual literal home, which is in Northern Virginia. This, according to Breitbart.com. Trump-endorsed congressional candidate Margaret Hageman leads Liz Cheney by 22 points, according to an August 16th primary, according to Friday's Casper Sharp Tribune Mason-Dixon poll. The poll found Hageman leads Cheney 52-30. 11% are undecided. 66% also disapprove of Cheney's overall job in Congress. That is just, you're You're not going to be able to overcome that. I'm sorry. Wyoming is a single congressional seat in Wyoming. I don't know what the population of Wyoming is, but you get one congressional seat. I think that means the population of Wyoming's got to be around like 500,000. I don't know. I don't know how the districts are, but it's supposed to be like 500,000 people per congressional district, approximately. And every 10 years, that gets redistricted. Wyoming has 2 senators and 1 member of Congress based on allocation. But Liz Cheney has been cozying up to Nancy Pelosi and her drunk-ass husband and has been driving her own approval rating directly into a fence, just like Paul Pelosi does in Napa Valley. Among those polled, only 27% approved of Cheney's job performance, 2/3 disapproved, and that means that she is on the wrong track for re-election. I think that the primary is August 1st for Wyoming, so we are just a few weeks away from Liz Cheney losing this race. She's so pathetic and desperate that according to something I saw on Twitter, I think it was Scott Pressler, he said that Liz Cheney is sending out mailers for Democrats to switch parties and vote for her. Instructions on how to switch your party to vote for pathetic losing Liz Cheney. Wyoming population, nearly 600,000, 580,000. That's how many people live in Wyoming based on the most recent census data, and August 16th is their primary date. If you live in Wyoming, we recommend you get out and vote against Liz Cheney. She is the very worst of the worst. She is endemic of the deep state. She is endemic of a permanent political class that has rotted through the systems of government and is irredeemable. Speaking about irredeemable, the former education secretary under Trump has now called to abolish the Department of Education. Based! Betsy DeVos is her name, and she served as the U.S. Secretary of Education under former President Donald Trump, and she's called to abolish the Department of Education. This is so very base. Speaking at the Moms for Liberty Summit, DeVos said the federal government should be removed from education, leaving the state and local governments to decide how best to educate children. I personally think the Department of Education should not exist, says DeVos, prompting a loud standing ovation from members of the audience, according to Florida Phoenix. Though DeVos acknowledged that some good teachers serve, including those in attendance at the summit, she blasted teachers' unions as K-12 cartels. The summit largely focused on how conservatives could win back majorities in local school board elections, and Betsy DeVos is right. She's right. There is absolutely no reason to have a federal Department of Education or a federal Department of Energy or a federal Department of HHS. It's the United States of America. It's not the United Federal Government of America. It's not the United School Boards of America, as Ron DeSantis likes to say. The states are the ones who hold this country together, and the states should be allowed to decide, as long as they are not openly violating the Constitution, how to best educate their children, how to best keep their populations healthy. The federal government has grown too big. The federal government has grown to a place where it must be struck down. You must have a system in place where more Betsy DeVos's can take over these institutions and destroy them from the inside. You need to break up Washington, D.C. We preach it on the show all the time. The only way to save this nation is to break up Washington, D.C. The Department of the Interior should be in the interior. Put the department in Wyoming. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the 580,000 people who live in Wyoming that love the great outdoors. They probably live in Wyoming because they love the great outdoors. They're cattle ranchers. They're farmers. They're people who enjoy vast open spaces. They love the interior of this country more than any of the sycophants and scum in Washington. Put the Department of the Interior in Wyoming. If the Department of Energy even sticks around, you should put it in Midland, Texas, where people care about energy in this country, where they're not overeducated, white, liberal elites who have $400,000 in student loan debt, who are just such pricks, who have the same look and feel as Jake Sullivan, this just pathetic, Weasley, overeducated, smug, entitled, leftist elite who think they run everything, and the world would just be better if everybody did and thought exactly as they say. This is tyranny. And we've got to break up this elitist uniparty class who, again, is wrecking this country through consolidation in Washington, D.C. I was talking to my wife this weekend, and we saw this article come across our feeds that said, what are the richest counties in America? Now, some of the richest counties in America exist around Silicon Valley, and that makes sense. Silicon Valley has a product. We are live streaming on a product of Silicon Valley. And so people get rich by the use of their products. And hey, no doubt, there's a lot of stuff happening in Silicon Valley, and a lot of people got super rich. Where's the other mass concentration of wealth in this country? It's in the kind of crappy suburbs of Northern Virginia and Maryland surrounding Washington, D.C. Now, what the hell is that about? What is Washington, D.C. creating? What is their product? I am live streaming on a product, hate them or love them, that was created by, in large, people in Silicon Valley. I'm using this product, so are you. What are we using that was created by Washington, D.C.? Nothing. These people are the parasites, leeches. They are parasites on the productive class in this nation. The productive class makes, and these people take. And so it's time to break up D.C. That's why we're totally in support of Betsy DeVos. Way to go, Donald Trump, by putting someone in charge there at the Department of Education. And it's a damn shame that Donald Trump didn't push for the destruction of the Department of Education and 3 or 4 other departments that don't deserve to exist, and then relocate them. All these departments are under the Executive Orders Act in Washington, D.C. They're creations by the pen of the executive. They were just written into creation by the President of the United States back in the day, 20, 30, 40 years ago, depending on the department. The administrative state must be disassembled. We're totally for that on the show because we're totally in favor of saving this nation. The way you save this nation is to have your priorities straight. God, family, country. That's what we care about on The Benny Show. We just want to say thank you for watching. You're a free man or a free woman, and you are watching because you want to remain that way. Thank you all so much. We'll see you tomorrow on The Benny Show. See ya.